The Campus Belle's family went bankrupt. Watching the Campus Belle being mocked and ridiculed by everyone, I took the 30,000 yuan I had saved up for years and forcefully shoved it into his hands. Later, I found out his family was actually going through an asset restructuring in preparation for listing on the stock market. I mustered up the courage to call out to Liu Ryan. Liu Ryan lowered her head. Her rosy face was filled with impatience. At the class gathering just now, the classmates were subtly mocking him, especially some girls who had been close to him before. When they found out he went bankrupt, it seemed like they were trying to make up for all the humiliation they had endured in the past. Looking at someone who used to shine like the sun, an admired figure up in the sky, now fallen to the dust, many people were unsatisfied. They wanted to trample him further into the ground, seeing him covered in filth. Those boys who once admired Liu Ryan now stared at him with venom. The petite Liu Ryan before me made me feel a bit heartbroken. She must be feeling really upset right now. Graduation was just around the corner. The starry path that was once hers now seemed muddy and impassable. I heard from classmates that her family's house had been seized. Soon her family would be homeless. I took out my bank card from my pocket and shoved it into her hands. Her hand was soft and warm. The moment our fingers touched, I couldn't help but blush. What is this? Liu Ryan hid her impatience. She looked at me, puzzled. It's 230,000 yuan. The password for the card is 198,456. It's not much, but it's a token of my sincerity. I believe you can definitely get through this tough time. Liu Ryan stared at me in disbelief. Her eyes were full of confusion. I took a deep breath. I stepped forward and hugged her. I heard that when you're feeling down, an encouraging hug can be incredibly comforting. It's okay, the difficulties will pass. Liu Ryan seemed very nervous. Her body was tense. She stood still, unmoving. I rested my head on her shoulder. I continued to encourage her. When I was in high school, my family went bankrupt too. We moved from a villa area to a district. 8 people, crowded into a room smaller than the old bathroom. The house was small, but the distance between people became closer. My parents used to argue every day. But now, without money, their relationship is actually much better. If you ever face difficulties in the future, you can always come to me. Although I don't have much money, I will do my best to help you. As I said this, I lifted my head and looked at her firmly. I've been through the rain, so I want to offer you an umbrella. Liu Ryan stared at me, dazed. She had always been proud, carefree and indifferent, but today she seemed oddly a little silly. My heart ached even more. Seeing her like this, I felt like I was looking at the old me. I stretched out my hand and gently patted her head. Her hair was very soft. The strands were fine, and it felt like the cat I used to have at home. Keep going. I gave her a bright, radiant smile. Liu Ryan's pupils suddenly contracted. Her fair and delicate face flushed with a shade of pink. Being pitied by a boy? She must feel uncomfortable. I waved my hand and turned quickly to leave. Graduation was just around the corner. I had to hurry and find a job with a higher salary. In the dorm, my roommates were discussing. Liu Ryan really was so unlucky. I had been pursuing her for years. A fall for years. I thought I could win her over after graduation and have her as my goddess. But then she went bankrupt. My roommate, Liu Yang, was good-looking. For 4 years of university, he had been revolving around Liu Ryan. He swore he would definitely win her heart. Actually, even though she lost her wealth, Liu Ryan was still beautiful. I couldn't help but interrupt. Liu Yang rolled his eyes. Hey Kong, wake up! Love without material support is like a pile of loose sand. It scatters the moment the wind blows. Plus, a girl like Liu Ryan, who can't carry heavy things or even hold up a small bag, without the halo of a rich girl, She probably wouldn't even be able to support herself. I stayed silent. Liu Ryan wasn't as bad as they said. Liu Ryan wasn't the way they made her out to be. She might appear arrogant and distant, but she was actually a good person. She had helped me before. During the winter break of my sophomore year, I worked as a waiter in a high-end private restaurant. Wearing a thin uniform, I stood outside the door. Before long, I was frozen stiff. Liu Ryan and her family came to dine. When she saw me, she came out of the private room. She deliberately handed me a packet of hand warmers. That was one of the few bits of warmth I received that cold winter. In just a month, graduation would be here. I still hadn't found a job. I hadn't secured a place to live either. Ever since my family went bankrupt, although our living conditions weren't great, I felt much happier now. Dad no longer disappeared for days on end like before. Mom didn't go gambling every day anymore. Now, our whole family was working hard to make money. We had moved from the suburbs to an old neighborhood in the southern part of the city. The house wasn't big, just a 60 square meter, 2-bedroom apartment. We had become the most ordinary 3-person family. Thinking about my parents in the neighboring city, I felt a surge of motivation. Have you found a job? While I was sending out resumes, I received a message from Liu Ryan. She even sent me a job posting link. It was from a very well-known company in our area. The benefits were great. Of course, the competition was fierce. This company is good. You should give it a try. She's such a kind person. Even though she had so much to deal with herself, she still forwarded this opportunity to me. I was a little moved. But the requirements for this company were very high. I felt that my chances of getting in were slim. But since it was Liu Ryan who sent it to me, I decided to give it a shot. Congratulations, Mr. He. You've been hired. When can you start? I looked at the HR manager's enthusiastic face and thought to myself, this world is truly magical. A monthly salary up to 5K, weekends off, and a 15-star rating. I had just interviewed for an assistant marketing manager position. How could the benefits be so outrageous? After signing the contract, the HR manager handed me a confidentiality agreement. She explained that employees' salaries were confidential and shouldn't be shared casually. I walked out of the company in a daze, feeling like a pie had just fallen from the sky and landed right on my head. Before I could even fully realize what had happened, the real estate agent called me. She said there was a place that was perfect for me. The landlord had high demands, which is why the price was so low. Looking at the exquisitely decorated 2-bedroom apartment, I almost couldn't believe my eyes. My eyes nearly popped out. How much are you asking for? $2,000 a month? With this location and this decoration, it should be at least $6,000 a month. Tell me the truth. Why is it so cheap? I had a feeling there was something off about this apartment. The pie seemed way too big. Maybe it was bait. The agent looked uneasy. After hesitating for a moment, she finally told me. Apparently, during the renovation, a construction worker accidentally fell from the balcony. He died on the spot. The landlord thought it was bad luck and wanted to rent it out quickly to bring some energy back to the house. He didn't mind that I was poor. So how could I mind his bad luck? I signed the contract without hesitation, feeling like I had just solved major life problems. It was close to the company, and the subway station was right outside the community gate. It was just 2 stations away from work. After years of being delayed by fate, the goddess of luck finally began to favor me. On my first day at work, I finally met my direct supervisor, the general manager of the marketing department, Yumeng. It was actually Yumeng. I kept my expression calm and indifferent, but my hands couldn't help but clench. Yumeng was my neighbor in high school. He was 4 years older than me. When I was in high school, he was already in college. He was my first crush during my youth. At the time, both of our families joked around, saying, "Once you graduate from college, you two should get married." Then my family had a crisis, and his family immediately distanced themselves. They were afraid that my father would come asking for a loan. Yu Meng blocked me. That's when we lost contact. So many years had passed, and his youthful vigor had transformed into a more mature and composed presence. The gold-rimmed glasses added a touch of intellectual charm to him. He Kong, what a coincidence! Looking at the hand extended toward me, I bent down and gave a bow. Manager Yu, I'll be your assistant from now on. Please take care of me. Yu Meng smiled. It's been so many years, and you haven't changed at all. Let's go, I'll show you around the company. I followed closely behind Yu Meng, hiding all my emotions deep in my eyes. At the meeting table, Yu Meng pointed to my pen. Assistant He, may I borrow your pen? When I handed the pen over, Yu Meng's fingertip brushed across the back of my hand. He even gently squeezed my hand. I felt the warmth of his touch. I raised my head. I met Yu Meng's ambiguous gaze. He wouldn't think I still liked him, right? The naive affection of youth is thinner than paper. It shatters with the slightest pull. Right now, all I want is to work hard and make money, to give my family a better life. When I arrived at the company entrance after work, I spotted a small, delicate figure from a distance. As I got closer, it was actually Liu Ryan. Liu Ryan, what are you doing here? I happily ran toward him. Thanks to him, I wouldn't have found such a great job otherwise. I was just passing by. Liu Ryan casually looked at me, but his ears were turning red. Thank you for recommending the job. Have you eaten yet? Let me treat you to a meal, okay? He glanced at me, nodding indifferently. Sure, I don't mind. Just then, a BMW car drove past me. The car window rolled down. Yu Meng waved and greeted me with a smile. Where are you living? I'll give you a ride. Thank you, Manager Yu. I'm going to meet some friends for dinner. Don't trouble yourself. Yu Meng's gaze made me feel uncomfortable. I quickly turned around and pulled Liu Ryan away. Liu Ryan's face was serious, but he kept glancing back at Yu Meng. Who is he? While serving Liu Ryan some food, I told him the story about me and Yu Meng. You think this world is small, don't you? Now he's become my direct superior. Liu Ryan furrowed his brows. If you don't like him, maybe you should consider changing jobs? What are you talking about? Finding a job isn't that easy now. I smiled, not taking Liu Ryan's words to heart. It would take him some time to understand the difficulties of survival once he's been tempered by society. Liu Ryan took a deep breath. Finding a job isn't easy. Finding a house isn't easy either. If I can't find a place to live soon, I'll be sleeping on the streets. Sleeping on the streets? I looked at Liu Ryan with sympathy. What about your parents? Liu Ryan put down his chopsticks, leaning back in his chair. His expression was lonely. They went back to our rural hometown. Now, in this city, it's just me. Alone, just like me. I felt even more heartbroken for him. He had lost his wealth. His house had been seized. Now his parents were leaving too. How difficult must it be for Liu Ryan? Thinking about my empty two-bedroom apartment, I tentatively asked, there's still a spare room in my place. Would you like to move in with me? Liu Ryan hesitated, looking at me. His gaze was uneasy. Wouldn't that be inconvenient? I gave him a reassuring smile. No, it's fine. There are 2 rooms. I was actually planning to find someone to share the rent. You came just in time to hear about it. Liu Ryan's eyes darkened. All right, let's go then. I don't have anywhere to stay tonight. Seeing Liu Ryan's pitiful expression, a pang of sadness surged in my heart. He had once spent money like water. Surrounded by servants, the center of attention in a crowd of thousands. But now he had to live in someone else's house. Let's go to the supermarket. I'll take you to buy some daily necessities. I secretly made a resolution in my heart. I'll be a little kinder to Liu Ryan, a little more kind. Let him know this world is not just about being worldly and indifferent. When you hit rock bottom, when you're mocked, despised, and forgotten, there will always be someone to give you strength. But you keep moving forward. After buying toothbrushes, towels, and other toiletries, we continued shopping for blankets, duvet covers, sleepwear, slippers, and all the other home essentials. Liu Ruyan was excitedly picking out shampoo and skincare products. There was no trace of poetry or embarrassment in him. He truly was a good person, better than I imagined. I bet before today, he hadn't even heard of these shampoo brands or skincare products in the supermarket. In such a predicament, he didn't wallow in self-pity. I admired Liu Ruyan even more. I remember when my family went bankrupt, and my clothes, which once cost thousands, became those cheap ones from the street market. I was upset for a long time. After buying them, I just hid in my room and cried. I felt like my life, too, was like those clothes. From high-end brands to street market goods. Kikyung, what color are your slippers? Blue. Then I'll get a pair in blue, too. Liu Ruyan was holding a pair of plastic slippers, on sale for 9.99 yuan. Beaming with joy, his spirits soaring. Usually, people would only look like that when buying an Hermes. I couldn't help but laugh. Welcome to my world. After we finished tidying up the room with Liu Ruyan, after settling his things, it was already late at night. Liu Ruyan curled up on the sofa, her stomach making a series of growling sounds. Her face turned slightly red, and she pretended to remain calm while looking at me. She hadn't had enough for dinner. I couldn't help but chuckle. The Liu Ruyan I once remembered as proud and aloof, cold and indifferent, turned out to blush so easily. Wait for me, I'll make you a bowl of noodles. I turned and walked to the kitchen. The kitchen had a floor-to-ceiling glass door, which reflected images like a mirror. In the blurry reflection, it seemed like I saw Liu Ruyan excitedly punching the air. Maybe she was swatting at a mosquito. I must have been mistaken. There was some leftover milk in the fridge from yesterday. I poured the milk and heated it, releasing a fragrant aroma. Then I fried a golden, crispy fried egg. In no time, a simple bowl of braised beef noodles was ready. Liu Ruyan sat at the table, staring blankly, not eating, just intensely gazing at the noodles in front of her. Her delicate face appeared ethereal in the misty air. What's wrong? Eat while it's hot. Through the lingering evening fog, Liu Ruyan lifted her gaze and stared at me. Under her intense gaze, my face started to flush. My eyes began to dodge her stare. Why was Liu Ruyan looking at me so intently? It was making me feel awkward. I focused on carefully eating my noodles. The expression on Liu Ruyan's face, it was almost as if she was envisioning her future. It was as though what she was eating wasn't the cheap noodles I bought from the supermarket. Instead, it felt like a delicacy from a Michelin-starred restaurant. I propped my chin up, watching Liu Ruyan. The once quiet room, with his presence, had become lively and filled with the warmth of life. Time passed in peaceful bliss. Nothing more, nothing less. The next morning, when I woke up for work, Liu Ruyan's room door was still closed. I quickly made a simple sandwich, poured some milk, and placed it on the dining table. Then I rushed off to work. On days when you have someone by your side, even in the busyness, there's a touch of happiness. Breakfast is on the table. When you wake up, remember to eat. I suddenly realized the message I had just sent him sounded more like something a husband would send to his wife. After clocking in, I was already at my workstation. My face was still red. Yu Meng shot me a suspicious glance a few times. The marketing department had a lot of work. There were endless reports and plans to organize every day. I was so busy, my feet hardly touched the ground, and I didn't even have time to check my phone. By the time I got off work, I noticed a message from Liu Ruyan lying on my phone. I found a job. I'm off work. Let me treat you to dinner. Still not off work? I'm waiting for you downstairs at your office. As I was packing up to leave, Yu Meng walked over. He lightly tapped my desk with his hand. Let's go, I'll treat you to a meal. By the way, I'll go over some company matters with you. I'm sorry, Manager Yu. I've already made plans with a friend. Yu Meng's face showed clear displeasure. This is the second time you've refused your boss. Are you already dating someone? He leaned down, looking at me. His eyes showed clear dissatisfaction. I placed the files in the drawer and stood up. Manager Yu, I apologize. I've already made plans with a friend today. Let's do it another time. Yu Meng's direct stare made me uncomfortable. The salary for this job was too rare for me to let go of. I didn't want to lose it. I didn't want anything to happen with Yu Meng outside of work. I rushed downstairs in a hurry. Liu Ruyan was already waiting for me. Looking at her petite figure, I fixed my hair, slowed my pace, and walked toward her slowly. She had been waiting for a while. Liu Ruyan's ears were slightly red, and she flashed a bright smile. Let's go, I'll treat you to hot pot. Liu Ruyan said. She had also found a well-paying job. Though it was a bit tiring, she often had to work overtime. She was the assistant to the general manager at a large company. The boss was especially strict, yelling at people every day. I bit into a shrimp ball, listening to Liu Ruyan vividly describe the issues in her office. I could feel my heart overflowing with joy. It's so good. Liu Ruyan also found a job. She wasn't defeated by these setbacks. She didn't fall into despair. Instead, she was living seriously, working hard, and bravely accepting the blows that fate gave her. Liu Ruyan really was remarkable. After dinner, Liu Ruyan insisted on dragging me to go shopping. She said she needed to buy a good razor for work. I desperately refused. Good razors are really expensive. Although the salary is higher now, but I still need to save money to help my family buy a house. I definitely can't spend money recklessly. I feel like ever since I graduated, Lady Luck seems to have taken root in my family. She's been visiting me more and more frequently. Congratulations, sir. You are the 1,000th customer at our store. To thank you for your support, we're giving you a set of razors as a gift. Please sign here. Miss Guiyuan smiled warmly, carefully wrapping the 2 boxes in her hands, and handed them to me. I looked at the razor set worth 5 figures in my hand, standing there questioning life. I had never heard of this brand before. And they're even giving away a gift box for free? Has it been so long since I left the upper class that I don't understand the marketing of luxury brands anymore? Liu Ruyan saw me frozen in place, took the bag from my hand, and even laughed while rubbing my head. Nice, He Kong. You really are an unbeatable lucky star. I watched Liu Ruyan grinning like a fool. Maybe my luck was finally turning around. Liu Ruyan really was my lucky star. After a bit of shopping, we went back home. I put the things away and went to the balcony to collect the clothes. It was an older apartment complex, and the drying rack on the balcony was one of those fixed types, not like the ones that rise and fall. I searched everywhere but couldn't find the clothes. How strange, I had always put them on the balcony. So I had to drag a stool over and stand on it to collect the clothes. I had just finished gathering to pieces when I felt someone standing close behind me. Liu Ruyan immediately wrapped her arms around my waist. Her delicate face was serious. He Kong. This is too dangerous. From now on, let me handle the clothes collection. I still held the white shirt in my hand, looking at Liu Ruyan's face, so close. And I could only feel my heart racing, almost leaping out of my throat. Let go of me, I whispered softly, my voice barely louder than a whisper. Liu Ruyan's body was soft and slender, and she held me tightly with both hands. This was the first time I had ever been hugged like this by a girl. It was unbearably embarrassing. I quickly fled back to my room, blushing, closing the door behind me. I turned my back to the door, waiting as my heartbeat gradually slowed down. Once I felt a bit calmer, I walked into the bathroom, only to see a completely unfamiliar version of myself. The boy in the mirror had a flushed face, eyes wide and sparkling, and my whole face was flushed with embarrassment. I thought I was just grateful to Liu Ruyan, understanding her, feeling sympathy. But could it be that I actually liked her? I took out my phone and messaged my buddy. He was a relationship expert. He had already dated 10 girls so far. His goal was to complete the Chinese zodiac. If a girl hugs me by accident, and my heart races fast, and I feel nervous, does that mean I like her? Is she pretty? I thought for a moment. Liu Ruyan's face was as beautiful as a celebrity's. Well, that's normal. Who wouldn't be nervous if a beautiful girl hugged them? It's the same for everyone. I thought to myself, you're right. Liu Ruyan is so beautiful. Any man would be lucky to have her. But my parents are still waiting for me in the small, old apartment. Right now, all I should focus on is making money seriously. I shouldn't think about anything else. I woke up with a red face, having dreamt the entire night through. The dream felt so real. So real that I couldn't even bring myself to make eye contact with Liu Ruyan in the morning. He Kong, wake up! Spring is already over. As I rushed into the office, the HR manager introduced a new employee, saying he was a new member of the marketing department. I looked up, and standing in front of me was a tall, handsome guy. He caught my gaze, and even winked at me. Liu Yang, you're here? Liu Yang was enthusiastically patting my shoulder. Awesome, He Kong. I can't believe we're working in the same company. How did you get into this company? This place is so hard to get into. I still have my girlfriend to thank for this. She helped me pull some strings to get me in. Liu Yang was still as lively as ever, and according to him, his girlfriend knew the company's board chairman's wife. So she pulled some strings to get him in. You have a girlfriend now? Liu Yang tapped his Rolex watch, with a smug look on his face, but his tone was casual. Well, he doesn't really have much age on him, just that his family owns a few properties and shops. I'd estimate his net worth to be around 80 million. Still, he's generous with me. I smiled. Liu Yang's like this. No matter what kind of guy you are, you'll never let yourself live a bad life. After work, Liu Ruyan was waiting for me at the door again. I just approached her, and Liu Yang soon showed up. When Liu Ruyan saw Liu Yang and me, Liu Yang was stunned. He Kong, you two. He glanced at Liu Ruyan, then at me, and then pulled me aside urgently. He Kong, are you and Liu Ruyan together? He poked my head with his finger in a hurry. Liu Ruyan is really beautiful, he said, before turning back to give her a once-over. Then he snapped back to reality, and with a sigh, looked at me with regret. I admit, rejecting a beauty like her is tough, but we still need to eat, right? He Kong, this city's better houses are 56,000 per square meter. You can't seriously get married and have kids in a rented place, can you? I couldn't help but laugh and push his finger away. Where did that come from? Hasn't Liu Ruyan been facing difficulties? She has no place to stay. We're just roommates for now. Liu Yang gasped in surprise. I glanced back, seeing that Liu Ruyan was already frowning impatiently. Liu Yang, I have to go now. We'll talk tomorrow at work. I jogged to Liu Ruyan and when I looked up, her furrowed brows relaxed instantly. You're here, she said, smiling. Let's go buy some groceries. What do you want to eat? I'll cook you some of my best dishes. Liu Ruyan looked at me with a silly smile, her dark pupils sparkling under the setting sun. I like everything you cook. Her sweet voice carried a touch of warmth and laughter. My face instantly turned red. My heart started pounding uncontrollably again. Liu Ruyan's words recently have been a bit strange. When we arrived at the market, we stopped in front of a vegetable stall. The owner was a young guy, about 30 years old. He greeted us enthusiastically. Wow, what a beautiful couple you two are. You look perfect together. What are you buying? I'll give you a 20% discount. I blushed and quickly shook my head. We're not a couple. We're just friends. We exchanged glances. Both of us blushed. So sweet, your eyes are practically glowing. Definitely a couple in love. The vegetable stall owner continued. I'll give you both a bag of tomatoes. These tomatoes are as sweet as the two of you. That evening, Liu Ruyan and I sat quietly at the dinner table. Neither of us said anything, just enjoying the silence. I picked up a piece of tomato scrambled eggs with my chopsticks and couldn't help but glance at Liu Ruyan. Our eyes met. I quickly lowered my head, flustered. I was so nervous that I choked. Liu Ruyan hurriedly walked over, patting my back, and handed me a glass of water. He called, "Are you okay?" I coughed so much that tears came out. I drank twice from the glass of water, and just as I was about to say I was fine, only then did I realize how close Liu Ruyan was to me. He was petite, and at that moment, she was bending down, anxiously looking at me. One hand still rested on my back, her palm warm against my skin. Her breath, hot and soft, gently blew across my face, like cherry blossoms blooming in spring, fresh and sweet. How could anyone's breath smell so pleasant? Without thinking, I leaned in and took a soft inhale. Liu Ruyan seemed startled by my action, standing completely still. Her long eyelashes cast a shadow across her face. My gaze traveled from her bright eyes down to her delicate nose and her exquisite chin. Her features were so refined, but then the sudden ringing of my phone shattered the intimate atmosphere. Both of us quickly turned away, breathing deeply to calm ourselves. I glanced at my phone. It was a call from Liu Yang. I answered the phone. "Hello!" I quickly pressed my hand to my wildly beating heart and ran into the room. "Hey, what's up?" Liu Yang asked, a teasing tone in his voice. "Are you kissing or something?" I cleared my throat. "What are you talking about? We were just eating." "You better tell me the truth. Are you in love with Liu Ruyan? Do you like Liu Ruyan?" I rubbed my chest. Something inside me twisted, restless and loud, screaming to break free. I wasn't sure. At first, I just felt sympathy for her, thinking she was pitiful. Later, I admired her, thought she was clever. Sometimes, though, I found her irresistibly cute. Is this considered liking her? Liu Yang's clear voice came through the phone. It's not liking, this isn't love. Love isn't scary. What's scary is when a man starts to pity and sympathize with a woman. You've fallen for Liu Ruyan. Jae Kong, you're finished. You've fallen in love. I walked out of the room in a daze, my face red as I sat back at the table and continued eating. Liu Ruyan was no longer in the room. It seemed like she had something to take care of outside. I felt like a zombie. Finished eating and tittied up the kitchen, my mind replaying Liu Yang's words, "You've fallen in love." Just then, Liu Ruyan's message came through. "Jae Kong, there's something at home. I won't be coming back tonight. Lock the door when you leave. Don't wait for me." I closed the door with a sense of loss, wondering what had happened at Liu Ruyan's house. The next day, I showed up at work with 2 massive dark circles under my eyes, only to be told I had to go on a business trip to Northeast China for a week. "You guys need to pack up and head home, okay? Flight is at 11 a.m. Hurry up." I rushed home, finished packing, and sat in the car with Liu Yang heading to the airport. The market department in Northeast China was in crisis. Several sales departments were being attacked, alleging serious product quality issues. The manager took Liu Yang, another female colleague, and me on the business trip. On the way, I couldn't help but worrying about the company's situation, and also felt a sense of sadness. I wouldn't be able to see Liu Ruyan for a whole week. I took out my phone and sent Liu Ruyan a message. "Liu Ruyan, the company has an urgent matter. I have to go to Harbin for a business trip for a week. My flight is at noon. Is everything okay at your place?" After an hour's drive, I checked my phone 100 times. But the phone lay still. No calls, no messages. I followed Yu Meng and the others toward the boarding gate, when suddenly, a hurried female voice called out, "Jay Kong." I turned to look, and Liu Ruyan was running toward me. Her fair, delicate face flushed from the run, her short hair slightly damp. She stopped in front of me, breathing heavily, her features relaxing. A brilliant smile spread across her face, her eyes shining bright, like a whole galaxy filled with stars. I stood dazed, staring at Liu Ruyan. "Aren't you supposed to be at work? Why are you at the airport?" Liu Ruyan looked at me calmly, her eyes full of tenderness. "I just wanted to see you off." Just then, Yu Meng walked over. "Jay Kong, stop dawdling. It's time to board." Liu Yang also came over with a look in his eyes. "Alright, let's go. If we don't go now, we'll miss the flight." Liu Yang pulled me along. I turned back to look at Liu Ruyan. "Go back, Liu Ruyan." Liu Yang glanced at her while pulling me. Anyone who doesn't know would think it's a life or death farewell. If this were Titanic, you two would be perfect for the roles. Jack and Rose would be ashamed to see your farewell. Love is the hardest to bear. Beauty's favor. Liu Ruyan, this girl is so naughty. No wonder you knew it was a fire pit, but still jumped in. I can't take it. I really can't take it. If he had looked at me with that kind of gaze back then, I could have been a father by now. On the plane, Liu Yang sat beside me and kept muttering, "I'm not jealous at all. Being rich is good. I'd rather cry in a BMW than laugh on a bicycle, especially when you have kids to raise. Looks can't be turned into baby formula or diapers. No matter how good looking someone is, they'll grow old and end up like that. But life is just for one lifetime. Money, it doesn't come with you when you die. Spending your life with such a beautiful woman. Just thinking about it makes me want to eat an extra bowl of rice." I looked at him, helpless and laughing. Will she get caught up in the drama more than the person involved? Is she even more excited than I am? As we prepared to fasten our seat belts, Yu Meng walked over and swapped seats with Liu Yang. I closed my eyes, pretending to sleep. Yu Meng's low voice whispered in my ear, "Girlfriend, I heard her family is bankrupt. Jay Kong, after all these years, you're still so naive. Manager Yu is my private matter. It doesn't seem to concern you. Your assistant position barely pays 7,000 or 8,000 a month. You can hardly support yourself. How do you still dream of supporting a woman?" I turned my head and remained silent, but inside I was full of doubts. 7,000 or 8,000. My salary is clearly 25,000. Why does he keep saying things that don't add up? The summer in Northeast China wasn't as hot as in the South. My mind was split in two. One half was on work. The other had already flown to Liu Ruyan. Yu Meng's gaze at me grew more displeased. After he said it once more, I pulled all my thoughts back. I threw myself fully into the work. After a few days of overtime and hard work, we finally solved the issue successfully. Yu Meng took us out for a celebratory meal. Everyone had a few drinks. He then said he needed to talk to me. So I followed him to the park across from the hotel. "Jay Kong, I know about your situation. Working alone must be tiring." Yu Meng's eyes were full of both probing and determination, but all I felt was an indescribable sense of annoyance. "Exactly what do you want to say?" Yu Meng looked at me, his gaze darkening. "Not long after your family had problems, my family went bankrupt too. It happened right after I graduated. I wanted to look for you later, but I was too caught up in my own struggles. By the time I got back on my feet, it was too late. I had already lost contact with you. Until now, when we meet again, I realized I've never forgotten you. I can give you a better life. I can buy you a house in this city. You won't even need to work anymore." I lifted my head, staring at this familiar, yet unfamiliar face. The heart that once fluttered had long since faded in the river of time. Now, my soul, my thoughts only have Liu Ruyan in them. Yeah, I have a girlfriend now. I love her very much. Manager Yu, I'll go rest now. Behind me, I could hear Yu Meng's unwilling voice. Jae Kong, you'll regret this. I'll be waiting for you to come back and beg me, dragging my tired body off the plane. I saw a man in a suit at the pickup area. His handsome features, carefully groomed, made him look quite refined. When he saw me and Liu Yang, his gaze darkened, especially when he saw me. I could clearly feel he was surprised. Sweetheart, is this your capable subordinate? Since we've met this rare talent, why don't you take him along to the dinner tonight? Consider it a reward for your hard-working employee. Seeing Yu Meng's awkward expression, I suddenly realized, so he's already married. Hey, I thought he was interested in pursuing me. Liu Yang secretly rolled his eyes. Manager Yu, I'll not disturb you any longer. Your company's chairman is my uncle. What I say in this company is much more influential than anything you can say. The man raised an eyebrow, arrogantly looking at me and Liu Yang. Oh, CEO Yu. In that case, I'll defer to you. Seeing Liu Yang's face change faster than clothes, I couldn't help but admire him. I'm Zhang Ming. Zhang Ming arrogantly tossed his head back, linking his arm with Yu Meng's and walking away. Liu Yang and I sat in the taxi, following Yu Meng and their car. I initially thought Yu Meng was a talented young man, but I didn't expect he was relying entirely on connections. This Zhang Ming was giving us a show of power. He wanted to show us the difference between us, to make us retreat when faced with difficulty. Indeed, being misunderstood is the fate of handsome men. Liu Yang, while taking out a mirror to fix his hair, chatted non-stop with me. I, distracted, took out my phone. I saw a message from Liu Ruyan. Sorry, I can't pick you up at the airport. Something came up at the company tonight. I'll come back a bit late. I'll wait for you at home. I have a gift for you, Liu Ruyan. Is he going to confess to me tonight? If he doesn't, I might as well confess first. I held my phone close to my chest, feeling the love surge within me. It was overwhelming. I felt like I was being consumed by it. Liu Yang, seeing my silly smile, said sourly, Jae Kong, have you thought this through? Though Liu Ruyan is beautiful, on your salary buying a house or a car, that'll never happen. Luxury homes and cars will have nothing to do with you in this lifetime. I never needed those things anyway. As long as we're together, fighting side by side is enough. Through thick and thin, we won't worry about life being difficult. Get your love-struck brain in check. Liu Yang poked my head with his finger. Zhang Ming's mansion, golden and ornate, was being renovated in a luxurious neighborhood. He showed us around briefly, clearly to show off. Later, let the servants take us to the guest rooms to change. He said he'd prepared gifts for us. Looking at the luxurious guest rooms, Liu Yang's eyes were turning red with envy. Yu Meng, you really married into a wealthy family. How does she always pick such a good husband? I recalled what Yu Meng had said last night. So, he plans to use his husband's money to support his lover? Zhang Ming had someone take me to his room alone, saying he needed to talk to me. You're Yu Meng's first love? I saw the unfriendly expression on his face. I greeted him with a neutral expression. Stop pretending. I've seen your high school photo at Yu Meng's house. He keeps it very well. Mr. Zhang, whether you believe it or not, we're just neighbors. And since I moved, we haven't had any contact. Nothing ever happened in the past, and nothing will happen in the future. I said to Zhang Ming, staring him in the eyes with each word. He sneered dismissively. I heard your family went bankrupt. Now you're still doing assistant work, though we are from different worlds. One from the sky, the other from the ground. But nowadays, young guys, especially those from poor families, are full of desires and ambitions. He looked me up and down, with a flash of jealousy in his eyes. From tomorrow on, I hope I never see you in this company again. I'm starting to understand more and more why Liu Yang is so eager to climb the corporate ladder. A poor person's effort is like foam, looking at the splendid, dreamlike scene, but it could shatter with a light poke from the wealthy. I sighed, stood up, and looked at Zhongming. Mr. Zhong, I can leave right now. That won't do. You need to stay for the dinner. Tonight, I'll show you what real wealth and allure are. Watching Zhongming mockingly cover his mouth and laugh, I couldn't take it anymore and walked toward the door. If you leave now, tomorrow you and Liu Yang can both submit your resignations. A cold, indifferent male voice came from behind. His light, casual tone carried an undeniable authority. Thinking of Liu Yang's excited words about how hard he worked to get into this company, I clenched my fist but then relaxed it again. I'm going to change my clothes. Tomorrow, I'll submit my resignation. Everything as Mr. Zhang wishes. In the guest room, Liu Yang was still excitedly picking clothes. Zhongming sent to evening gowns for us. Do you like this black one? Or the gray one? Black is handsome. Gray is elegant. Why don't we try both? Won't you be unhappy? He brought us here, but with ill intentions. I looked at Liu Yang, who was still so lively, and couldn't help but ask, what's there to be unhappy about? If he wants to flaunt his wealth, let him do it. The food at the dinner will definitely be high-end. I just want to flaunt the meat. If I had to buy a ticket for this dinner, it would cost at least 8,000 to 10,000 a ticket. But now we get to enjoy it for free. What's there to be upset about? What's there to be upset about? At this moment, Liu Yang had already changed into his black tuxedo. His figure was tall and straight. He was so absorbed in admiring himself in the mirror. What a stunningly handsome guy. I couldn't help but laugh too. The banquet was held in a high-end private club. The venue was located in a famous scenic area nearby. It had a kind of hidden in plain sight vibe. As soon as we entered the banquet hall, Liu Yang's eyes almost popped out of his head. He was desperately squeezing my hand. Oh my god, so many beautiful women. No, wait, so many millionairesses. I'm doomed. Guess I found my partner too early. Zhongming stood to the side. His expression was full of arrogance. Tonight's banquet doesn't have just any millionaires. Anyone with assets under $1 billion isn't even qualified to enter. You two are my guests, so stick with me. Don't embarrass me. Zhongming glanced at us with his head held high and walked ahead with an air of grandeur. I looked around at the excessively luxurious place and felt out of place. This world belonged to them, and I had nothing. They say all roads lead to Rome, but some people are born in Rome. What the ordinary person strives for all their life, they are born with. This wasn't a world I was meant to be in. I thought about my job and couldn't help but feel a pang of regret. It was still because of Liu Ruyan that I came here, but after I resign, I don't even know how I'll explain it to her. In the end, it's all just a fleeting illusion. I've been noticing you since earlier. A voice interrupted my thoughts. This handsome young man, would you mind adding me as a friend? A young woman in an evening gown stood beside me. She appeared to be in her early 30s, her figure tall and slender, her features delicate, but there were faint circles under her eyes. She seemed to be in poor health. After I politely declined, she still firmly placed her business card in my hand. Before turning and walking away, Zhongming came over. That just now was Miss Liu, a cousin of the Liu family, the owner of Liu Group. If she casually shows you a little bit of what she has, it could support you for the rest of your life. You really have no eye for this. She's also surnamed Liu. Liu Yang also leaned in, eager for gossip. It's normal that you haven't heard of them. Liu Group is very low-key. They have many companies, and the ones who control them are always behind the scenes. That's the real wealthy family. When you add up the assets of everyone here, it probably doesn't even come close to what the Liu family has. Nobody knows exactly how many industries they own. Liu Yang's mouth dropped open in shock. Is this the kind of chaebol they show in dramas? Zhongming nodded proudly. Yeah, more or less. Tonight, Miss Liu, the second daughter of Liu Group, will be here. You're lucky. You'll get to see what a true daughter of heaven looks like. Just then, there was a commotion by the entrance. A young woman surrounded by bodyguards walked in with great ceremony. It's the third daughter of the Liu family. Zhang Ming's voice was tinged with excitement. Liu Yang and I turned our heads to look. The woman before us wore a black evening gown. Her figure in the gown was petite and slender. Her exquisite features stepped forward casually, with an aura of arrogance that was impossible to ignore. I had never seen Liu Ryan so dazzling before. She stood there, her face still carrying the usual indifference and helplessness. But it was as if she carried her own spotlight, her beauty so captivating that it was hard to look away. The crowd rushed to her, their expressions filled with flattery, with admiration. Liu Yang beside Liu Ryan let out a sharp scream, his voice loud and clear. Everyone turned to look at us. I just stood quietly, gazing at Liu Ryan. Her radiance shone like the rising sun, bright and overwhelming. We were separated by many people, like a whole galaxy between us. It felt like an insurmountable barrier, a chasm that I would never be able to cross. Liu Ryan's expression changed in an instant, her once carefree face now showing signs of panic and nervousness. I took a step back, then turned and ran away. Kikyang, Liu Ryan's figure is small, but her pace is fast. In just a few steps, she caught up with me. She grabbed my arm and pulled me into her circle, anxiously explaining, Kikyang, please listen to me. The crowd began to realize what was happening, and a loud commotion erupted. The noise seemed like it could shake the roof off. Liu Yang and Zhang Ming beside me stood with wide eyes, their mouths agape in shock, forgetting all about controlling their expressions. With red eyes, I raised my head, my thoughts in turmoil. 2,000 yuan, the cheap rent, a ridiculous 25,000 yuan monthly salary, and the inexplicably one-shaving razor from the counter. At this moment, everything had a reasonable explanation. Before Liu Ryan could finish speaking, tears were already rolling down her face. My heart ached, a mixture of sourness and bitterness. 7 parts anger, yet 3 parts disappointment, and 3 parts relief. I was angry that Liu Ryan had lied to me, but relieved that her family hadn't gone bankrupt. She still had a brilliant future ahead of her. Disappointed, realizing that this fleeting moment was ultimately just a dream I would wake from. Our future, Liu Ryan and I, was never meant to be. Liu Ryan looked at me anxiously, her eyes full of urgency and pleading. Kikyang, don't go. Please, let me explain. I tilted my head back, tears in my eyes, speaking each word with a heavy heart. Let go. Liu Ryan hesitated for a moment. Then, finally, she released her grip. I pushed her away gently and walked toward the door. People whispered among themselves, but instinctively made way for me. My heart hurt with every beat. Love had not been mine to hold, yet it was already lost. I had only briefly embraced my moon, and now it was back in its starry sky. Tears could no longer be stopped, falling in heavy streams. The quiet crowd suddenly buzzed with noise again. Before I could react, Liu Ryan cupped my face in her hands and urgently kissed me. Like a traveler in the desert, finally meeting the long-awaited rain. Love, once untouched, seemed simple enough, but once it touched you, it was like a floodgate breaking open. It was unstoppable. I wrapped my arms around Liu Ryan. At that moment, all reason and calculations vanished. I just wanted to kiss my lover deeply. The sounds of sobs echoed from the crowd. A crisp sound rang out. Someone had accidentally dropped a glass, shattering it. The noise snapped me and Liu Ryan out of our trance. Seeing the dense crowd of onlookers, I felt my face flush with embarrassment. I hadn't expected my first kiss to be under such public scrutiny. Liu Ryan kissed my forehead and then walked confidently toward the door. I buried my face in her shoulder. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of Liu Yang, looking extremely excited. After Liu Ryan, led me to the car. Kikyung, I miss you so much. Her fragmented words were drowned out by our kisses. We kissed almost the entire way back to the room. Once inside, she closed the door, then turned around and stared at me intently. I looked at the woman in front of me, and all the love I felt for her surged out. Unstoppable. When I woke up, it was already midnight. I sat up, looking at Liu Ryan, who was sleeping soundly. Her long lashes fluttered in her peaceful sleep. I gently touched her face, feeling a pang in my heart nearly bringing me to tears. We were never meant to be. TV dramas are based on reality. So rather than ending in a bitter separation, it would be better to part ways and forget each other in the world. At least I would have a sweet, full memory to hold on to. As for whether she would remember me in the future, only with regret, I quietly got up, changed my clothes, placed the key on the dining table, carefully closed the door. Leaving the house was Liu Ryan's task. It was arranged by her. Just as I arrived alone, I left the city alone. I returned to my hometown. Life was simple and peaceful. The workplace was not far from home. So every day after work, I could enjoy the meals my parents made. The three of us would talk about our daily experiences, chat about trivial matters. Though life was humble, it was happy. I blocked Liu Ryan's phone number and green bubbles. At first, she used Liu Yang's phone, calling me frantically. After I hung up a few times, she stopped trying to find me. According to Liu Yang, our sudden departure that day caused quite an uproar in the Liu family. Liu Ryan faced immense pressure from her family, which was likely why she gave up on trying to find me. This way, things were better. Bridges and roads should be separate, but I couldn't help missing Liu Ryan as if she had gone mad. If longing had a sound, it would be deafening. I threw myself into work, filling the emptiness inside with countless tasks. I kept myself busy for 2 months. Then I suddenly received a wedding invitation from my university class president. He Kong, you must come. I also heard about your situation with Liu Ryan. I didn't expect her family to be so powerful. Don't worry, she definitely won't come. A young lady like her. She's not from our world. Liu Yang kept urging me to go with him, saying it's been so long since we've hung out. My parents noticed I've been feeling down lately and encouraged me to go out and relax. I thought about it for a while. Visiting my classmates sounded good. I looked at the grand flower sea before me, mesmerized by the dreamlike beauty. Liu Yang said the class president's family must have won the lottery. 1 billion. He told me honestly. I'm not jealous. Liu Yang widened his eyes and covered his mouth. His gaze was full of admiration. Wow, just these flowers must have cost millions, right? Such a grand gesture. I'm not sure what he was thinking. But then he started laughing foolishly. The class president rushed over, telling me to relax today. The groom's party was short 1 person, and asked me to be a groomsman tomorrow morning. Liu Yang and I strolled through the flower sea, admiring the countless flowers, savoring the intoxicating fragrance. I couldn't help but feel a pang of bitterness. Class president, I said, did his wife spend everything to organize this wedding? I remember her family wasn't particularly wealthy. Now, that's true love. Liu Yang nodded, envious. This is every man's dream. Wedding, right? How can I ever compare to this when I get married? Damn, during dinner that evening, somehow the topic turned to Liu Ryan. I always thought that girl, Liu Ryan, her aura, looks, was just extraordinary. She really comes from a true aristocratic family. I heard her family wanted her to go to a top university abroad, but she stubbornly refused, insisting on staying in China. Liu Ryan doesn't need a degree to shine. She's already one of the brightest in business. Those who used to mock Liu Ryan now all have changed their tune. She truly belongs to a different world from ours. Early the next morning, Liu Yang dragged me out of bed. I was half asleep, squinting my eyes. watching a bunch of people rush into the room. Hurry up, get your makeup done. Otherwise, we won't make it in time. Someone pushed me into a chair to do my makeup, while someone else messed with my hair from behind. I was completely confused. Are you sure you have the right person? I'm the groomsman. No mistake, no mistake. They're even styling the groomsman with precision. The groom requested that the groomsman look like a prince's entourage. A bit of a ridiculous request, but on the wedding day, the groom's wishes are supreme. I closed my eyes, letting them do their thing. All I could think of was going back to bed for a nap. Alright, you can go change now. I looked at the handsome version of myself in the mirror and felt a bit dazed. Is this really okay, dressing like this? Won't it overshadow the bride? After all, today is the class president's wedding. The makeup artist pulled back the curtain, revealing a luxurious, vintage-style suit. The countless small diamonds on the suit, under the light, sparkled with dazzling brilliance, mesmerizing everyone, causing them to lose themselves in its beauty for a long time. Hurry, we're running out of time. The makeup artist snapped back to reality, then immediately began stripping me of my clothes. Are you joking? This is a groomsman's suit? Is this what groomsmen wear? Another groomsman's suit is even more extravagant than yours. Today's theme is the Prince series. The groom is dressing up as a king. As I was speaking, a few people started helping me change into the suit. I was pulled into the outfit, staring at myself in the mirror. This is the dream version of myself wearing a suit. My meticulously styled hair, handsome facial features, a tall figure, the luxurious suit. At this moment, I felt like a real prince. Surrounded by people, I walked toward the wedding venue. Liu Yang handed me a bouquet, then pushed me up to the stage. The music began to play. Petals fell from the sky. I looked up amazed. In front of me stood Liu Ryan, with red eyes, smiling radiantly, step by step. She slowly and steadily walked toward me. "He Kong, will you marry me?" The crowd cheered. "Marry her, marry her." I looked around, seeing many familiar faces, including my parents. It turned out that I was attending my own wedding. I smiled and nodded.